Hey everybody, welcome back to your favorite media response show. It's X's for Show, and we are here today to do some bending. And I am your host, Nico. You can catch me at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION.
What's your bending style?
Oh, I'm 1000% airbender.
And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Elemental, and I am an earthbender.
And I'm your producer, Kevo, and you can find me at Kevo Really, and I am an earthbender, but probably one of the Fire Nation transplants. So like a lava bender, I think.
I like that.
That's just what I feel.
I love it. And, you know, I love what we're here to talk about. I love the Avatar universe. I'm so excited to talk about this. I just want to say we already have a comment saying, you know, because what's good, what's bad, and what's weird. The comment says, yes, it's good. And I agree. There's a lot of good. I don't want one for one at all, which one of the comments is, you know, fans want one for one. I don't want one for one at all. I actually love all of the changes almost. What I don't love is like the actual production of the show a little bit, but we'll get into that. This is a balanced review. Right? No one's gunning out anybody. But
honestly, that has maybe kind of colored my experience more than the show. I don't have a ton of strong feelings on the show. But holy hell, the internet response has been really wild.
Yeah, it's been unacceptable.
Really, mostly negative. When I say the wild stuff has been mostly negative, it's been really just some like kind of insane comments about like stuff that I think looks fantastic. It might, you know, like choices they've made visually that look fantastic that other people are saying like, why is it CG? Well, because badger moles don't actually exist, friend. Like, I don't know what to tell you. There's not a lot of options there. Flying monkey lemurs are not real, so we had to make that one. Sorry to disappoint you. And then at the same time, just people who are so protective that they're not willing to say, this was not the choice I would have made. And there's, you know, I'm excited to talk about it. There's a lot of great to say, but there are a few things where I'm like, that's not the choice I would have made. And I'm excited to have a conversation where we can say this was a good show. There's a lot of good to say. And then there's some stuff that's reasonable to critique. Nico and I were talking. This is now falling on a scale that 1 on the scale is this adaptation, Cowboy Bebop. Absolute disaster. Would never tell anybody to watch. Heart still broken that I waited for this for so long, that John Cho is the perfect Spike Spiegel and the show is just an unwatchable disaster. And then all the way on the other end, we have One Piece. Perfect. No notes, just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, wonderful, fun, phenomenal. And Avatar, I think, falls pretty squarely in the middle. It has some stuff that is disappointing. It has a ton of stuff that's great. And that's a not bad place to be.
You know,
I really, really, really agree. And I think that even is the thing. The thing that I felt from the live action film from all those years ago was there was almost nothing that I could come away from it saying that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that they did in this that I'm like, this is a mess. This is not great. But I really couldn't stop finding things every episode as we watched that I thought were great, that I thought were interesting takes, interesting spins, interesting remixes, to borrow the word that they used for it. So, that's really important to note. You can't expect it to be perfect. Well, maybe you can. But even if it's
unfortunately, I will say, because of One Piece, I did expect it to be perfect, because I did think Netflix had learned something.
Yeah.
And, the creator of One Piece, the manga, who was very involved in the production of the anime as well, was hugely involved in the production of the live action show. And people have said that that's one very good example of what made One Piece so good, is that it had this kind of conceptual showrunner. Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko quit Avatar, and I do think that might be part of why it suffered.
I mean, they avatared their options and decided to anatar some new shows over at Paramount Plus Bender. I'm out.
I mean, we're not going to say.
Were you ever in?
We're not saying what the name is inevitably going to be, but yeah, I mean, it's not that they quit the business, but they did leave this project, and I think that is very possibly why it suffered. But a reason why I'm very excited to talk about it with you guys is because all three of us have seen what I think is one of the best examples of an adaptation, specifically of one property from one form to another, and that's The Magicians. The Magicians made some really strong choices for how you would make it a TV show, because it is not a book. It is a TV show when it's a TV show. And it doesn't make sense to just one-to-one do every scene and film it and then string that all together and say we've made a TV show. You have to adapt. Things are different from medium to medium. And I think having some experience with something that makes really strong choices that end up benefiting the adaptation is really important, because I think a lot of us get bogged down when we talk about this stuff and saying, oh, well, it didn't do this scene that I love, or it didn't do this part that I love, and therefore it's a failure.
Go cry about it. Why don't you?
Yeah, I mean, and I think sometimes I there are things where I say to myself, like, I wish they had done that. I would have loved to have seen it. And there are other things where I say somebody made a really strong choice. With The Magicians, having Julia's story run parallel the whole time, I think works a lot better than it would have been to introduce her in season 2 and go all the way back then and tell us her story. That works in a book because we have more time for internal monologue. It's different for a TV show where it's visual and the pacing is faster and you forget things faster. So anyway, I know we've all seen that. I think that is one of the most successful, specifically adaptations of a property. And I think talking about adaptation is really important when talking about this version of Avatar.
I really, really like and appreciate that comparison. And I think that it works for this for better and for worse. Because I think something that the Magicians did was they pulled back from as adult as the books were, for as much as it stayed adult. And I think it was easier for them to go in that direction than for this show, which I think struggled to decide what kind of tone it wanted as it was growing from being a Nickelodeon Nicktoon adaptation. And I think they couldn't really decide, did they still want to heavily court a kid's audience, or were they trying to be more adult? And I think that indecision of tone is one of the things that made the overall show kind of uneven for me.
Well, and that's even a really great segue here. I want to bring in then to focus, speaking about, general adaptation, and when you have to straddle that line. So many of these animated adaptations are either meant for one age group and then translated to another age group for live action, or it's vice versa. Sometimes it's the insanity of thinking Beetlejuice, that character that like literally lifts up the dress of young girls in the movie. He should have a children's animated show. And I grew up a huge kids Beetlejuice fan. So like, I'm not coming for Beetlejuice. I think Jackie Chan Adventures is a literally perfect cartoon. And the reason I bring that up is because I don't think you always have to do like a 1-for-1 translation. I think something that gets it right better than most things is probably Star Wars. I think there's a lot of really great Batman out there that translates 1-for-1. I'm holding my breath as tightly as humanly possible for X-Men 97 and Green Lantern. But
you did not like the original X-Men cartoon.
oh, what? Did I not?
Ooh.
It's open season on Nico?
No, this is always the thing where I will jump in front of the bullets for you, and I'll be the guy who's like, it's okay that he doesn't like it. Because I think, I think in the year of our Lord, 2024, it is okay to say, I didn't like the X-Men cartoon, and quality-wise, it's not that good. It's okay that you loved it when you were 6 because it changed your life and made you love X-Men, which is my story, but I'm never going to defend that thing. And was it successful as an adaptation of the X-Men books? In terms of getting kids into the franchise? Yeah, probably. In terms of being a sophisticated...
accurate.
Yeah, in terms of like... nothing was back then. Like that, the Beetlejuice animated show is actually another really great example because it is fantastic at making it something that another audience that maybe is a little too young for that film. Although the millennials that grew up with that, our parents didn't care, so we just watched it anyway. Weirdly, I think what you got?
Another really great one in that vein is Ghostbusters, which a lot of critics are pointing to the fact that the movie franchise has gotten so far away now from what the original film franchise had been because it's trying to reflect the cartoon show that our generation really loved that was pitched toward us from the original concept that, in no way reflected the first 2 films. Not really.
And so, I mean, those Saturday morning cartoons of the early 90s, they were not hiring... Right. I mean, we get amazing writers for shows now. People who are...
Joshua Hale Fiakoff, who did all of that. I, Vampire. He did the crossover with Justice League Dark. He was part of that generation of New 52 writers who helped usher in a more socially aware era of DC heroes. And thank you.
Weissman with Young Justice. I mean, like, and Weissman with Gargoyles is the exception that kind of proves the rule. So like we weren't getting a lot of that, but there were some smart choices made for, I think they picked the right team for kids when it came to the original X-Men cartoon. I think they made a lot of good choices. But the choices were not, how do we make something that will stand the test of time, always be fantastic, and work for everyone? The choice they made was, how do we get kids right now into these characters so they will then buy these books and buy these toys? They nailed those decisions. And the question with Avatar, I think, and something we can't really answer, both because we aren't sitting in the room with the production staff to know, but also I do think this is one of the kind of problems with the show is you can't tell from it what the answer to the question of what was the goal here. And that really speaks to Kevo's point of, they couldn't really choose a tone.
Well, so I want to ask you guys, were there any other either animated shows or did you guys want to hop into some, let's talking about this show?
I mean, I mentioned, 2 of the really big ones. One Piece, I think for me is just a game changer in terms of revealing the fact that this can work. And in a lot of cases, I think should be done. One Piece is a really fantastic example because there are 1,000 episodes of the show, more than 1,000 episodes of the show, and there's more of that of the manga. It is granular as hell, and it's not all fun to watch. I'm sorry. Like, if you're a huge weeb, if you're a huge anime guy, absolutely. But like, even your Megan Thee Stallions, even the people that are like hosting the anime awards, that's a show that you put on in the background and do other stuff. It's the same thing with soap operas where you have an episode every day for a week. You basically are not moving the plot forward till Friday. So everything you see between Monday and Friday, it kind of doesn't matter if you see every moment. And One Piece, the live action show, figured out how to cut everything down to its barest, best essentials and create a story that really flowed and told you a whole chunk of this enormous, this enormous story and got you through the first act of 20 acts. I mean, it's so much stuff. And so that was the one where I was like, yeah, I really want everybody to be coming with this kind of A game to their adaptations. And I would kill to see Cowboy Bebop done with that sort of level of understanding. There are a lot of shows of that era. I'd love to see like Vampire Hunter D, Trigun would be the other one from that era. There's a lot, but like I love adaptation. I really think it can work. I think most of the time it fails because people make really bad choices, and it's a domino effect. Once you make one bad one, it's kind of all over from there.
And that's a part of the conversation that flusters me when people are like, why bother at all? Yeah, no, I like adaptations too. I love art. I love a million different versions of a million different things. I'm curious to see this one ride out. So
I'd love to see a Gargoyles live adaptation.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Gargoyles. And until Greg Weisman gets the go from Disney, it seems like Netflix gave the Avatar crew the go on this one in a way that was binding regardless of the creators. Now, I can't be sure how this show would have been different under the creators, but one thing that I do know is I'm super grateful for the character updates. I just want to start there. I have a lot of feelings about the actual narrative plot of the show. I had some pacing questions. The compositing wasn't my favorite. The score was occasionally too quiet to be heard, but the performances were incredible. The connection between the characters was marvelous. I really love this iteration of Sokka as a thinking man and a warrior. I love this iteration of Katara as a stronger young woman, not bound by the gender politics of animated series, but instead by the positivity of her character. If I had any problem with anything, it is that, well, number one, oh my God, is Zuko a handsome boy? Watching this like 40-year-old beat on a child was occasionally a little tough for me. But let's get into some Avatar, guys. I love the cast. Iroh kills it for me. Hey, Arden Cho, what's up, my favorite Kitsune?
Yeah.
favorite
So great to
Kitsune?
see her again. Yeah.
Hey, I'm so excited because it's airbending and Abed in the morning. And like, there was just so much great cast here. And again, this is the most I've ever loved Zuko in my entire life. I could tribute to this Zuko an entire episode of why this Zuko is the Zuko for me. So guys, let's talk about it. How did you feel about the character changes?
I enjoyed a lot of them. I really wish that the creative team had not gone online in the weeks before and talked about how they removed Sokka's misogyny and they removed a lot of those conversations, because ultimately I don't think they really did. I just think in the animated show, Sokka is much more plainly, that's not for girls. And here, whoa! Yeah, and it is, there is a point. The point is he meets Suki, the warrior that is so much better than him,
and Lorelai's best friend.
Nailed it. And it all goes out the window. He realizes that he is completely wrong in his thoughts about women.
I just realized that this is June's mom. Sorry, no, I'm so sorry, but the mentor is June's mom from Teen Wolf. They don't share any scenes together, but they were mother and daughter.
Oh my God, yeah,
that's amazing.
Sorry.
Oh, the casting on this show is so good. The casting's so good.
Oh, so great, and that helped a lot. But yeah, no, and just to build off of that, I do agree. I feel like a lot of people had a lot to say about, it was important to his journey. It's an important lesson
Hmm.
to teach, which, yeah, it is. But I don't think that in 19 years, Sokka's original journey of being kind of a jerk to start and then getting his ass handed to him repeatedly before finally learning a lesson did much to change misogyny in all of society. So it's okay if we do kind of a different take on the character this time.
I
It
mean,
wasn't
I'll
like
even
he's
push it back a little and say that I actually think it did. I think a lot of kids learned from that. But I think here they didn't take the lesson away. They just didn't write it in a way where he is like, that's not for girls. Oh, wait, a girl just taught me something. Instead, he is much more thrust into what we know to be a traditional masculine role and is humbled by a girl. The lesson is still there. It's just the dialogue is not written in a way where it's multiple episodes of stupid jokes. It's just kind of the character is who the character is and then is changed by an encounter. In a similar way, he never says to Katara, you can't do it because you're a girl, but he does kind of say you can't and should not do it. We should not go on this journey. Don't worry about water bending. You don't need to know this. Don't do it. And Katara still has to learn to come into her power and not have a boy tell her what to do and tell her she can't do stuff. It's never stated so explicitly. We don't do the same
Not the same handhold. It's a little bit more
yeah.
Sorkin about it.
Yeah, and I think that's okay because we do get to the same point. Sokka does learn from Suki. Sokka absolutely shows up to Suki's house like, I'm a better warrior than you, and she kicks the shit out of him.
Get it, Mama.
And, Katara absolutely cannot waterbend when the show starts and progressively learns to waterbend. So we're okay on a lot of this stuff. And I was really disheartened by the language the creators used before the show came out. And I just wish they hadn't said anything. There is a lot of noise that I think got generated on both sides of the conversation that I wish had not been said at all. That said, all of that positive stuff, this acting could have been stronger. There were a lot of times where I just felt like maybe we do a third take, maybe we get another take, maybe the director steps in and says like, okay, we're closing for tonight and we're gonna all do some lessons with the acting coach and come back in, because there are just some moments that are kids not being particularly strong at acting, and there are some other moments that are writers having not written something particularly strong that is given to the kids, and it just, none of it feels insurmountable. None of it feels like this is just bad and they couldn't do better, or there's just no way to get this scene right. But it did feel like somebody on staff said, I think we got it. Let's go to the next scene. And that person was incorrect.
Something I remind myself of in those moments is they used to beat kids to get better performances out of them, and we don't do that anymore. So, a child actor is not giving me an Emmy-worthy performance on Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think I'll survive.
And I'm so glad you have Azula up on the screen while we're talking about this. I am fascinated. If you could go to Fire Lord Abdomen for a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Fire Lord Abdomen and Azula over here, the two of them are the Julias, because they don't really have a story in book one, and here they are being main characters. I want to say that a part of why I love this is because, Daniel Day Kim is a legend for the circles he's run in as an actor. He has been on some of the most influential programs of all time, ranging from the Buffyverse by being a recurring character for multiple seasons on Angel, going to being a humongous part of what I think is Lost's classic mystique that it goes on to lose as the show ages, to being a major part of the revitalization of the Hawaii Five-0 brand, because it wasn't gonna be Scott Conn. So I think that where that leaves me is truly excited to see this titan of industry bring what is a singular voice to this. Part of what made that hard for me is I do not like Fire Lord Ozai, and not in a I don't need my villains to be complicated way. I think Fire Lord Ozai is an abusive man, and I think he's horrible. But the problem is when I look at Daniel Day Kim, I think, yes, daddy, whatever you need. I'll be your happy top boy. I love you. And it can be really difficult to balance that with the level of human kindness he puts into this role and the hideous evil of this character.
And I think there's a reason we sometimes say about somebody who is acting horribly that they are a cartoon villain, because cartoons do give us a kind of villainy that is a bit overt. This was a role that was played by Mark Hamill, who played the Joker, and he voices it so well. But Fire Lord Ozai, I mean, like, it takes a while for Avatar, the animated show, to find its groove on what's happening with Iroh, because he can't be the Dragon of the West and be this sweet guy. And I think they pull their punches a little bit, especially when it turns out that he's a member of the Order of the White Lotus, because he did lay siege to Ba Sing Se. Like, he did stuff that he knows is wrong. And the show figures out how to wrestle with it. But I do think it takes a little bit. I think it takes them a little bit of time to realize they're going to need to do the work. And they, I think, sort of decide they don't need to do it with Ozai, which is fine for the animated show. Again, that's why we say cartoon villain. That means you are just an irredeemable evil bad guy.
Look at it, Chuko.
But we need to feel something for Ozai, and I think it ends up working. Particularly, another scene that I feel like people have said they're so upset about is where he shows favor to Zuko in front of Azula and says, he found it, he has honor. That doesn't make him less abusive. That means that rather than being just abusive of Zuko and abusive of Azula, but in a favoring way, it means that he abuses them both by pitting them against each other, which is fucking horrible and parents shouldn't do.
It's kind of weird that he never did anything to favor Zuko and kind of was always deeply antagonistic the entire series. Like, I personally am always team some people are just fucking evil.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's necessarily... so I don't know how I feel about some of the stuff they added for Ozai here, where it feels like they're trying to make him more human. And I'm not sure where that's going or to what end that will be. But they are definitely spinning him in a way that evolves him more than the cartoon had him. Because, like, the level to which he favored Azula was that just maniacal, cartoonish level of villain, where it's weird and out of character for someone of his station to so favor the younger daughter over the elder son that he should be shaping into the next Fire Lord. Unless he's planning to kill him or something, but that's never been introduced. So, like, it was just weird. So that is
nothing about he wants to steal Zuko's body.
No Sith clones.
And I mean, there seems to be a real focus here on... They say it a few times in Avatar, the animated series, but there's a real sense here from Iroh and Ozai that they feel that peace and prosperity is only possible through the Fire Nation. I mean, it's manifest destiny. The Fire Nation should expand everywhere and lead everything, and that will lead to peace. And I think, where the show maybe doesn't make so explicit that Sokka has some misogynistic tendencies, it makes very explicit that this was their belief. This is how they were raised, and this is what they were raised to do. And they've gone in two different directions, where Iroh has sort of lost his heart for that mission, and Ozai, as the Emperor, fully believes in it. And for me, it works, and even the sort of humanity that is given, especially to Ozai, I feel like works because it is an actual human. I think the animated series can get away with him being more cartoonishly evil because we don't have to look a man in the eyes, and the man is not the beautiful Daniel Day Kim. So there's just a degree to which I think I probably wouldn't buy him as Mark Hamill cackling evilly
Agreed.
when he gets his way. So we gotta switch things up a little bit, and this is where we come to adaptation. If he cannot be comically evil, just I'm gonna burn everybody to the ground and kill everyone and abuse my son, drive my daughter insane. If he's not gonna do that, then we have to start changing a bunch of stuff that falls from that domino effect. And so I think they made a bunch of solid choices based on the fact that, like, this guy just isn't cartoon villainy.
So here's part of why you convinced me. Because all of that, yes, absolutely. Seeing them as human beings, there needs to be that change. We are just going to inherently see them differently. And it's one of the reasons that I really appreciated one of the big changes that I haven't seen any discourse about yet, but I am just waiting for the pushback on, is how much they pulled away from Sokka being a warrior. And that being such an integral part of his personality, and instead having these moments of people recognizing other value in Sokka, just in general, recognizing his value up front rather than making him have to earn it time after time after time after time, but also recognizing other value in him. Because one of the things that we should, if we are trying to tell, any kind of moralistic, positive story about a universe that goes on, we should be telling stories that the end result should be peace, cooperation, and you don't need to be a warrior. And so I've literally never heard anything that I can recall of what Sokka was after the war. In any of the spin-off canon, it's never mentioned in Korra. And he's just a warrior. He's just a warrior. He's just a warrior. So, like, having this young man be told that he has value outside of that, and seeing that be something that they are delving into, we will eventually have to come to a point of, can they get Ozai to stop? Is he a man? Is he someone who they have to give a chance to? That's, at its core, something that really was one of the tenets of Avatar: The Last Airbender, that at the end of the day, especially at the time, and especially because of the context of being a Nicktoon, it still had to be a lot of punching and a lot of, sucking the evil out of you and stuff.
And the bending you good or whatever. It's all very Echo Kingpin. So,
but I think a lot of those big beats are still going to happen. So, it's given that we sort of have to ask ourselves how we'll get there. And there are a lot of Azula scenes coming up and a lot of Azula moments that I just think are going to have to play pretty differently. And that's okay. This is not the same character. It's the other thing is, like, again, nobody sounds like Mark Hamill. No actor, even if you wanted the live action Emperor to be this evil, he just doesn't sound like, nobody sounds like Mark Hamill. Nobody is going to be able to create that in a way where you are convinced about their megalomaniacal tendencies. Similarly,
I could believe that about his pecs. I could believe they're megalomaniacal.
They are destroying the world right in my world
right now.
Destroyed. Nobody sounds like Grey Delisle, who voiced Azula. They just she has such a unique perspective and voice. And also, I fully would have argued with any Avatar fan until looking at a wiki that she was the older sibling by 10 to 20 years, because Grey Delisle has a very old voice. There's an old soul to her, and Azula sounds significantly older than Zuko. So when you add it all together, she just Azula sounds like this 22-year-old entrepreneur who just likes to do cunty shit. And that's not this girl. This girl cannot be that, but she is a fantastic actor. I think she's probably a phenomenal stunt person, stunt worker. I imagine she also has a stunt actor, but she has to be there for a lot of it. She's really good on this show. She just can't be Grey Delisle.
What I love about your age confusion thing is when they got to the flashback of Iroh's son's funeral, and Nico was talking to me about it, and he was a little confused about what age the characters were on the original versus here. I was saying I'm pretty sure that they were no older than or no younger than 8 and 6. But the thing is, even tiny little Azula sounds just like kind of a vague chipmunk version of this, again, adult businesswoman that is Azula.
Yeah.
So a lot of the ages and stuff were really weird and obfuscated, even in the original. So I have such a difficult time. I always had a difficult time even then, but especially these two are brothers. By how much?
Blood. By blood.
I mean,
believe they're
when
brothers by
you're
blood.
dealing with kings and situations where there might be more than one mother, which we never find out about for their parents, I don't think. And also, mothers gotta kind of do it whenever they're made to, not when they want to. I could believe there's a 20-year age difference, and Daniel Day Kim is 55. So,
Daddy, how?
Truly, how? Teach me your vampire ways, sir. More than that, it's a similar thing. Like 55 is old to have a 16-year-old son. So it's
yes.
Avatar does what it wants with these things, and that's forgivable.
I really think that, one of the things that I am reminded of constantly with this show is how many of the side and supporting characters are just as important to shaping the experience of the show as these main characters. I couldn't help but notice that motherfucking Amber Midthunder plays Yue, and how brilliant that is. I loved getting the Kyoshi warriors so dynamically and magically so early on. I felt like this universe is a universe that's shaped by its side characters and how important its side characters are. And I genuinely don't think any side character moved me less than Appa here. I'm a really big Appa fan. Like, that's my character. And one of the frustrations I experienced with this was that it felt very much like Appa was facilitatory. I felt like I didn't really understand who Appa was supposed to be in terms of this. Something that I remember Appa representing, frequently in the original is he represented this opportunity for Aang to connect with what made him an airbender, what made him an air nomad. Yes. It gave him an opportunity to have a relationship with the identity he'd left behind. And now in this new version, I felt like sometimes at best, Appa was the couch in Central Perk. He was reserved for them and was always in the background of the scene, but it was only really important to mention him when the joke needed it. And so when we get to the finale and Momo matters, it's a tough sell. So the thing that I realized is that in the animated version, everybody costs the same. But in this version, Appa and Momo cost money. They're more expensive than the actors. That sucks, man.
But it sucks because that was a staple of Avatar from minute one. That Appa is just the best boy.
But the best boy.
we love him so much, and he has so much personality. Here we have time to get it. We're just at the start of this show, and we definitely have time to give Appa more personality, to give him those moments with Aang. And I think, pointing to the fact that Momo gets that moment to shine early is, for me, just like, yeah, we can't have everything. But my hope is not lost on this one.
I really feel like, for me, though, this is one of those things that highlights the difference between doing this in a cartoon and doing this in a live action, and where the cartoon was both, a cartoon, and B, a children's cartoon, where you have those anthropomorphized, blurring the line between completely cognizant of human speech type animals, where you can have a personality like that. I respect the fact that this world, for whatever reason, whether it was cost, meaning we focused less on the animals, but it kind of made the animals a little bit more what animals would be in real life. You wouldn't be able to have a giant bison like this be able to necessarily hit all of the same cues and give all the same performances as you can draw and direct a cartoon to be able to do. I think
my dog is the size of his horn, and I couldn't get Bucky to do fuck all.
So I think that is definitely one of the things that makes it interesting to focus less on the animals. The ways in which the animals are used in the original cartoon is kind of Disney princess levels of the animals, like, can fight as a unit and stuff, and like, that's crazy, that's wild, and it's cute and fun, but it's one of the ways in which, it was a cartoon, and this isn't. Again, there's still some things they do, though, where it feels like they are still trying to be so much for children that I don't think you can necessarily justify it with that argument, though.
Well, you know what wasn't for children? All the burninating people to death. It was Trogdor up in here.
Yes, exactly. Like, they didn't go so hard on violence that when spears rained down on the Fire Nation soldiers, no one got hit, not even grazed.
That was some stormtrooper shit.
But then how many people did we see literally be immolated, which is something I think we never saw in the cartoon. It was always just very, it's just a flash, and you're either just kind of singed or you're just gone, and it's not
hot.
Screaming.
It's hot.
It was wild.
I actually thought that was really great the way they handled that, because one of the things that I always think is kind of clunky in magic is like when somebody's like, and I have swept your spell away. How are you going to convince me that fire just pops off of people? Oh my gosh, the way they did it with these weapons that moved the fire and people like blowing the fire back. The one that I really have to agree with Kevo on that filled me with ire was this. It's a standardization of CGI that I don't understand. How is it that droplets fall off of floating balls of water into nothing constantly? Like, you're going as far as to remind us that the nature of water is such that water has to go somewhere and the droplets will fall, but then the droplets fall and disappear. So it's actually not that it's important to remember. It's just a neat effect. And I love the neat effect of it. I'm not splitting hairs, but I am kind of saying, I was told, hey, this is an expensive show. But then I'm pointing out that's an effect that literally makes you seem less correct. So I do really respect that every artist gets to make their own decisions. If you want to record with a full orchestra versus using native instruments, that's your call. But this is an example of, then maybe this could have been a little less expensive if we had thought about the way we were using CGI. I don't know, because I'm not a CGI artist. I'm a scoring guy. I write music. So, like, talk to me about the very, very quiet music.
They hit the three big cues that really stick in my head, and the third one I just am amazed they got to so early. Right off the list is the credits music, the tribal drumming. Great, fantastic, nailed it. The next one is the Fire Nation cue, the boom, 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 boom,
Made me
which I
laugh
think
every
they
time.
absolutely nailed. And then the last one, again, I really did not expect this so early in the game and cried immediately. Leaves on the Vine during the funeral scene.
Yeah.
Beautiful, perfect remaking of Leaves on the Vine. And one of the greatest songs Avatar's ever done. Oh, and for a fail, Secret Tunnel. Guys, Secret Tunnel is the best part of the show. And actually, this is going to carry me to my next point, but I'll let Nico talk about the music and then I'll return to Secret Tunnel. But happy it was there at all, but that's one of the best, funniest moments in Avatar, and the fact that it was just an afterthought of, it just bummed me out. What do you got, Kevo?
Here's my hope, though, because you already nailed one point, which is glad we got it at all. If this is all we ever get, I think they wanted to make sure they put it in. But then I hope, I'm not expecting Jaskier levels, but I really hope we then see them in book 2, see them in book 3. Maybe you can expand on the joke, because we never saw them again in the original. And the closest we came was Prince Wu singing to Badger Moles in Korra. So I would love to see instead bring the minstrels back in season 2 and give them new songs, make them funnier, do more. That would justify their use in book 1.
I don't want to be a big fighty boy, but I thought Secret Tunnel was great.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine. There just wasn't enough. It was perfect as it was.
Okay.
They didn't do it badly. They did it perfectly.
But now what?
There's that's a whole moment, and they do the whole song, and Aang is there.
So I want to say that there was no shorts as a man who thinks that the American cinema electorate underrepresents the sexiness of Asian men in cinema. There was no short supply of very, very handsome Asian men in this. I thought that they was so beautiful to showcase men of very underrepresented cultures on TV in all different sizes, all different shapes, all different kinds of men from different cultures. And one of the things that I commented to Kevo was that I thought the gentleman who sang Secret Tunnel was both handsome and familiar. And Kevo had to explain to me he's not familiar. But he is actually from a different live action and animated and movie and late in reboot franchise. He was a mighty fucking duck.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
he's had very few roles, but that is one of the roles that he's had, and he was in D2, D3, and he was one of the ducks to come back for the reunion in Game Changers. Yeah.
If you watched Chris Carter's misunderstood but brilliant villain and great main character, oh my god, Millennium, he's in an episode of Millennium. But one of the things that I do just want to say is it was so great to see so many, and I feel weird saying it, but it was so great to see so many non-white actors in roles that shouldn't be white. It was just really refreshing to see a show that seemed to do a lot of committing to the idea that the world is full of beautiful color. The world is full of so many amazing people and so many unforgettable makeups of heritage. And I just thought it was so special to see a film. God, I've said this to Kevo. I keep calling it a movie because I feel like I watched a trilogy of movies. It was just really beautiful and really special. And it was, every actor felt like it was about encapsulating a sense of culture. And I felt lucky to get to be part of this.
And, that's trumping the animated show, in which, again, Mark Hamill is Fire Lord Ozai. Mae Whitman, who I adore. I think Mae Whitman is one of the funniest actors, and Veal.
Kevo, who is, what is her name? Who is she?
Her?
It's as plain as the nose on Katara's face.
That's Egg.
I love her so much, but she's Katara. The Grey Delisle Azula, not anyway. it's
Oh, and
there
then
was
even Cora, even our precious
yeah,
But-
Janet
Cora was
Varney,
Janet Varney.
absolutely adore.
You know what's
but-
crazy that I'm seeing looking at this for the first time? Like every version of Zuko has been a person of color.
Yes, yeah, we got Dante
Mr. Zuko.
Bosco, so that's fantastic.
As into some, we always associate Asian men with anger stereotypes that I find questionable, but the fact that now everybody's correct makes that balanced.
Yeah. So, this show really did one up the animated show in that regard, and that makes me extremely happy. I said that I would be returning to Secret Tunnel, and the fact that it is just kind of an afterthought moment. The song is really well done, but they don't even do the whole thing, and it doesn't have the same like explosive joy of when they play it on the animated series. And that's the word that I want to return to, joy. Oh gosh, this show is really lacking in joy. It's really lacking in fun. It's really lacking in smiles. Aang is not the happy character that he was in the show, and I
described him as Aang on Adderall.
Angst. Yeah, Aang on Adderall, 100%.
He's not unfriendly or unkind or
No.
unsweet or unpositive or unhopeful, but he is just very subdued.
He's very subdued. And this was another thing where the creators got online and they were like, we're not doing Aang stops to hang out with the koi fish because we didn't have time to get there. And somebody pointed out that this series is an hour and a half longer than the first season of the animated show, so you maybe did have time. I know I disagree with that point as well, but they did, whether they had time to show the Aang going to see the koi fish, they did have time to show.
I clocked a lot of dead moments that could have been used better in their runtime. 100% sure, and I won't hear otherwise on that.
Yeah. I really just felt like in general there was a lack of whimsy, and kind of the point is they still managed to really drill this idea in, which is that Aang does not want to do this. Aang feels like he is a kid and he is not prepared to do this. And in the animated series, a big part of that is because he is a very carefree person, and this is a care. This is, he's somebody that wants to have fun. He's somebody that feels a lot of joy about the world. And this solemn responsibility is a lot for somebody that wants to be happy. And it just feels like he doesn't want to do this. Like, it's scary, which makes total sense.
That's actually, I think that is where I feel different. I feel there's hesitation and fear, but I don't feel there's reluctance. Not wanting to do it is a desire not to do it. He never seems to not want to do it. He seems afraid, but as somebody who works with kids, there's actually a difference between kids showing an excess of fear and kids showing a diswillingness.
Sure.
And this is about fear, not diswillingness. And the animated was about diswillingness.
Yes.
And that is, for me, the change here. There's a preclusion to the idea of self-asserted responsibility for personal stake in things that are predetermined, that he tries to be like, well, I don't have a choice in the animated, where he refuses it. But here he's just sort of like, it's fuck. All right, fine, I'll do it.
I think that even speaks a lot to the changes in his motivation and behavior, because where in the animated, his diswillingness is what led to the destruction of his nation in so many ways. But here, it's even like he's in so many ways aware. I was just scared and went out for one night, but genuinely, even if I had been there that one night, I just would have been killed too. So, like, I am sad that my entire nation was killed, but I'm really not that hugely responsible. There's such a more decompressed story in the original of Aang was trying to push away the responsibility for a long time, and then he ran away specifically out of unwillingness, and then there was a period of time before he was lost, before the Fire Nation destroyed the air nomads. Like, they had to compress it in such a way that absolves Aang of so much of the guilt that he has in the original series, that changes the character so much.
And, you know, if they're working to absolve him of the guilt, I guess I just really wish I had seen more of him getting to be a joyful person, a really happy person. He doesn't seem miserable in this, but he just doesn't really have the same joie de vivre, for lack of a better term.
Well, then he can't be the nanny.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he can be. I think
he's wearing red and tan.
I just, it's something that it's something that really made me fall in love with Aang, the animated character, and there just isn't a lot here that made me fall in love with this character. I think he's great. I think he's fun. I think the actor is a phenomenal, moves phenomenally, and so much of the show is about that visual style and about, I mean, it's sort of almost more like a kung fu film, like an action film.
It's like a ballet of folkloric magic. It's so about that on point.
But I just don't, I don't love the character in the same way. And to kind of refute my own point, one place where I think they really nailed this. So like my point being, like, while I might not love it, it's an adaptive choice, and it might be more important that they did it this way to make the whole thing work. And one place where I thought it really did work, I do not like the animated episode with Boomy.
Oh my God, the Boomy improvement.
I do not like animated Boomy. I thought that's a nonsense episode. It just really was a chewing time episode.
No wonder I love you so much.
And in this one, that he felt abandoned by Aang. And it's funny because, again, what you pointed to, Kevo, like, Aang didn't abandon him. Aang got lost one night and almost drowned and couldn't have gotten himself out of the ice later. And so he didn't, he didn't run away from his friend Boomy and fail to help him. He freaked out about some news and stuff happened, but Boomy was still abandoned. And Boomy talks to him about the fact that he had to make the choices as king that Aang is going to have to make, and he doesn't think Aang is ready to. It's very sad. It's very dark. And it's really not what happens in the animated series. The animated series is much, once Aang understands, most of it is really Boomy revealing himself to be Boomy. That's the big secret here. And in the animated series, and in this one, Boomy reveals this very early and is speaking to Aang as his friend, saying, like, I do not think you're ready. And here's all the fucked up stuff I had to do that I don't think you're ready to do. And I think that was a beautifully done episode, a really well made point. While it is less funny and fun and silly and joyful, here's a case where I think, okay, maybe that was the right way to do it. While I wish Aang overall had more joy in his life and as a character and had more joy written into the experience, here's a place where I think they absolutely nailed it. Also, I think it's hilarious that this dude is one of the
hottest men alive.
Yeah, he's one of the guys in Pitch Perfect. He's one of the boy Pitch Perfect singers in Pitch Perfect.
He's Mindy's brother from the Mindy Project.
Yep.
Like Kevo told me a really fascinating fact about him that really I thought was beautiful. That he talked about how he has had a road to recovery. He has found sobriety, and it's just really great to see a beautiful place in Hollywood for somebody who has made mistakes and wanted to come back. There's not a lot of forgiveness for people who choose to work on themselves. We only tend to have forgiveness when that hurts others. And so to see an actor who it evidently turns out he lost out on being in Hamilton due to his
the original Aaron Burr.
Sir. And considering that I can't even put into words my feelings about Pearly Victorious being on Broadway right now. It is literally hard for me to be prouder of a thing. So Leslie Odom, who's having like the career of a life, and then here's a guy who could have wound up forgotten, and instead he's part of something that's going to bring a lot of people a lot of joy, and that's really special.
He's also got a big role on CBS's Ghosts.
Oh my God,
Yes!
Aaron's favorite
Thank
show on
you.
the
I was about to say it's probably like the last show that's ever going to get syndicated.
Can we start covering that? I want to watch, or at least start watching it as a family because I want to watch that. I love Rose McIver. She's great.
I'll give it a shot or two.
It's got what's her name that we love from Devious Maids.
That's a
crazy
you and
lady.
Nico thing. I
Right
can't
here.
speak to that.
I
But
respect
I did really love this character. I mean, this to me is where we get into the heart of adaptation is going to take us to some significantly different places that can be for the better, even when those same adaptive choices might not work overall. So like I said, I want more joy in this show overall. I think I saw a lot of spots in the first 3 episodes where I would have liked to have seen it. In this 4th episode, perfect. This is exactly where I think we needed to have something a little darker. We needed to have something a little different. Boomy is another one like Ozai, where him as this zany, wacky old man who talks like this. It's cute. It's funny on an animated show. If you were 7 when it came out, you thought that was hilarious. It doesn't work here, and this worked.
That actually reminds me, I wasn't 7 when this show starts, so I always thought Jet sucked. And as soon as Jet appeared, I literally turned to Kevo and said out loud, "Don't let that be Jet." And
He was like, "That's not Jet, is it?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't think so."
Why did you not want it to be Jet? Did you not want Jet in the show?
I just don't want Jet. I think he represents a sort of... Okay, so here's the problem I have with Jet. There is no Jet equivalent for Aang or Sokka, oh my God, what is this? The movie? Or Sokka or Zuko, because that's the problem. I go to say Sokka and Zuko at the same time and say Zuko. The failing is the young girl is taken by the beautiful boy. There is no point at which the boys are felled by an equally powerful woman. There's
in
just
an equally powerful
women.
way. Okay, yeah.
There's deceptive women, and there's the girl being foolish.
So we do have Suki, but
She doesn't fell him.
She's not evil.
She doesn't fall. He doesn't fall for something.
He learns from her.
She looked
in a positive
literally like every bad John Hughes girl from the 1980s. Like this was some sort of every girl like a bad boy. No, Jet.
Oh.
And that's the problem. There is no balance to Jet. There is no point at which the boys look dumb for liking a girl the way Katara looks dumb because of Jet.
Yeah.
I would argue it's a little different. Yes, I do still think Suki and Mei kind of fill those roles a little bit. I think obviously they end up being better characters, but the boys do look kind of foolish for their behavior in front of those girls. Mei is so obviously not helping Zuko when things start. She does end up getting there eventually, but both of them just sort of fall prey to being idiot boys in love. It is different, and I'm not standing 100% by this argument, but I see it a little bit.
All right.
I think Aang deserves Aang always deserved a Jet. That was the one thing that was missing. That was the one thing that was missing from the entire show as a whole. I like Aang and Katara ending up together. It's very cute. We wouldn't have Korra otherwise. I did think it would end up being Katara and Zuko, but that's fine. I do like that they end up together. I would have really liked for Aang to meet a real solid contender that made him look like an idiot a little bit.
I'm fine that they end up together. I feel like the romance kind of ooked me a little because it was a 12 and a 14-year-old at the time, and I don't love the idea of children being destined and those ages. A lot of the stuff made it weird for me, and so I'm glad some of it's been removed. But then I feel like that took a lot from Katara's character.
Yeah.
But the reason that I put these three images up in particular in conjunction is because the remix turned the three of these into one story. And
Yeah, dude.
this is all one story, all going on at once, which is bizarre, wild, kind of cool. Something that Nico said to me at one point was that he feels like this was a decompressed movie. You said it felt like you said movie, and I said like it's like a decompressed movie, like it's a mini series of it essentially. And so I wanted to point to this as one of the biggest examples of the way in which this was such a remix, and B, see how we felt about it, and the potential for something like this to happen in season 2. What could they possibly mix up?
That's the thing, because when we're talking about TV shows, we all have our playlist, right? Every one of us picks the episodes we love, and no three of us would have the same list of episodes from any show. There was a VH1 show that was poorly conceived in some ways, but also really beautiful. I believe it was called The List, and they would get 4 people, sort of the same. I'm sorry, 4 people, and they would get 4 people, sort of the same people. They would get to do like best week ever, but sometimes it would be like random celebrities. Like they would get like I don't know, they would get like a Marla Sokolov just to kind of like appear on this. And it was right around the time that John Mayer and Reese were becoming popular. So like 2002, 2000, oh my God, Reese becoming popular. John Mayer, so 2002, 2003. And they would bring these actors on and they would say their top 3, that kind of song. Top 3 love songs, top 3 rock songs about breakups. And like people would, argue, okay, I don't like that one of that. And it's sort of something that we've adapted for this product over and over again. This idea of discussing a list, finding the things that are strong about it. None of us would have the same list of episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but all of us would list all of the same highlight main points for the arcs. And I think that's what they were hoping to accomplish by combining these 3 stories. They were also hoping to not have to cast 3 actors as strong as Danny Pudi, to have somebody that powerful in that sort of avuncular role. They were hoping not to have to cast so many people who could do so much. I think it's unbelievable that June got more screen time than June gets in the original, but whatever. I am such an Arden Show fanboy. She's so hot. So she can do anything. Look at her. Are you kidding me? She can do anything she wants. Step on me. Jesus Christ. So she's amazing. And I love this idea of incorporating female warriors outside of the class of female warriors as it is set up in Avatar. The idea that she is simply a warrior on par with the male warriors is something that is really necessary to remind us that this show has evolved. And I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Do you not think they did that in the...
She appears like 3 times.
She
2.
might only appear 3 times in this.
Well, I'm hoping that it leads to more because she's a get. That outfit is designed by Lulu from Final Fantasy X. And I love that she legitimately has a Lydia skull in her hair. Is that her last name, Dietz?
Yes. To bring it back around to Beetlejuice, that's so funny. So one of the performances that I want to point to in this, though, look, I really liked Ken Leung's Zhao. I found it very interesting. For some reason, it continuously gave me Ken Jeong vibes because the way that he played it was the opposite of what we keep saying, where like you have to make it less cartoony. I felt like so much of his delivery was more cartoonish in a really interesting way that I didn't hate. And that's why it evokes Ken Jeong for me, because it is almost that like Chang level of comedic, the way that he delivers his lines, like "I'm going to kill the moon," and that's it's such an interesting take. I think it is one of the ways in which like it leans into that sort of over dramatic delivery of classic kung fu movies as well. Not a complaint.
Jim Belushi comedies. That way that everybody in all of those movies delivered everything like this.
And, again, not a complaint, more just something that I wanted to note and put out into the universe and just point out in terms of figuring out exactly the tone that you want to get. Because you can't have Aang be not as chipper as he is, but have this guy evoking more emotion.
And that's, I think, the thing is, I think the Zhao performance is really solid. He plays like a really like good, obsequious, mid-level bureaucrat who is trying to climb the ladder.
And Stephen Culp on West Wing.
100%.
Yeah.
And, there is a little bit of humor to it. There's a lot of like, ooh, fuck this guy in like a fun, he's fun to root against way. I might have preferred the World of Decisions in which it was a Ken Jeong and it was a little bit more of a silly character. He is nailing the assignment that was clearly given to him. I think I'd wished they'd given a different assignment and therefore picked a different actor. As great as Danny Pudi is, I wish that he also had been somebody who was basically get the cast of Community in and have them ham up characters. And that could have added a little bit of that humor spice. That is the Sixth Spice Girl that I was told I was not allowed to be in the band. But
humor spelled with the O-U-R, of course.
Exactly.
And the seventh spice is, of course, ice spice. And the eighth is cardamom.
Nailed it. There are places where I can really see the humor could have gone here. Insert humor here. And they just kind of decided not to. And I think they made good decisions with what they did instead. But I think going the instead route was the wrong thing. And yeah, I mean, Ken Leung, great performance. And I see exactly what you're saying. I might have preferred a Ken Jeong being Chang at his most insane for Zhao.
And I don't want to be like too weird, but if somebody is out there trying to think about an actor who could give the sort of depth that you would need for Twin Peaks, I think Ken Jeong's got it. I don't particularly like Chang, but you can see in that role, like all my favorite moments for him are Changnesia. Actually, I like when he doesn't know who he is. I think that's an incredible performance.
I mean, he shows right from the get-go that he is up for anything.
Yeah,
I think he's direct. I think if David Lynch comes to him and says, "We're doing this scene, and we're
doing this,
and this is where you're silly," and then in the next scene you're going to have murdered your son or something. He has both. He's got both in the tank, ready to go. And I don't think. I think that is a rare talent.
The last thing I want to say before we move on to our fun little game and give the floor to you guys to say anything you want to say next. I was thrilled by the casting all around. I even got my precious George Takei. Oh my. And
yeah.
So this owl for me was the moment at which I knew that Avatar was going to be a humongous part of my fandom forever. Everyone who knows me knows I'm weird about like magic forests and stuff. And this was a really great moment for me. So when he showed up here, I screamed at the top of my lungs, he's not in season 1. And Keva was like, no, he's not. And so seeing him, like, I love the remix, guys. Like we were saying about playlists, everybody's got their favorite playlists and everybody's got their favorite remixes. I love remixes where they make the song sound completely different. We were at the gym this morning and I heard oh my God, a Family Affair remix by Mary J. Blige that I'd never heard before. And it turned smooth, cool R&B jam. No hard bass hits, no thumps. And it changes the song so much. And I'd not experienced a song that I loved two ways like that since maybe that the Fruity Loops remix of Cut to the Feeling, right? There were things about this that were the best remix that would go on my playlist. There were things about this where I would listen to this album instead of the remix, the remaster. But there were things that were just, for me, not a great made television show. I am incredibly positive on the changes. I mean, some of them were not for the better. There were places Azula just came off like a dumb kid, but and I never thought that once about the TV show. So, sorry, the cartoon. But it was never because of her. Her acting was really powerful for what she was given. There were just times she was given about as much as a gumball machine. Quarter in, gumball out. It was very transactionary. And that's what I'm looking for from season 2. The music here was transactionary. The dialogue was transactionary. I would like something a little less transactionary and a little more emotional for season 2.
I like those goals. I'm really curious to see what sort of listening the production team is doing and what sort of adjustments they're able to make, interested in making, willing to make. As we pointed out, some of this stuff doesn't happen in season 1. Azula's not in season 1.
Yeah.
She doesn't even go here.
She doesn't even go here. So the fact that we've already had this much means, on the one hand, we're ahead of schedule, so we can potentially do more in season 2. On the other, we've now seen this character, and maybe we can't suddenly change her. So we're going to be playing with that line a lot. Similarly, I think Ozai is kind of where he needs to be, but I think a lot of fans are going to be upset that he is not Mark Hamill doing an evil cackle. So are they going to hear that and adjust accordingly, or are they going to say, that wouldn't work here?
Just to bring up Mark Hamill and people having a reaction, I really love that D. Bradley Baker goes on to play, I'm pretty sure it's D. Bradley Baker. I'm like trying to look up as fast as I can. He plays a number of characters in this, or in the original, and goes on to play a number of recasts. So he's like Ra's al Ghul in Arkham City. He's Boba Fett in some of the Star Wars games. He is a number of the characters in X-Men Legends. And something that I feel like that's really a bummer is he never really gets his due as a performer, because he's always stepping in for somebody else. And I feel like that is something that Daniel Day Kim, exactly to your point, might see here. He might be seconded because he's second.
Yeah. I think the addition of Toph is also probably hugely going to change dynamics. So, what?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
So this, the first season of Avatar is different than the next 3 seasons. I think this maybe needs to be different than the next, or is it the next 2 seasons? Avatar's 4 seasons. 2?
3.
No,
3
3.
Avatar, 4 Korra.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think that this one needs to also observe what they did this first time around. I'm really hoping they don't buckle down and do the thing of like, well, all this criticism is bullshit. We don't need to. We stay the course. Some amount of listening to fan feedback is good.
Yes.
One of the reasons I think comics is really going off the rails is because they have gone so far into the we do not care what any of our diehard readers think, that just some real joy is being lost. And I hope these guys, seeing some of the response, I really do hope that they don't suddenly make Sokka misogynist, make these weird choices that aren't necessarily serving anybody. But there's some stuff that could get a little bit retooled and we could really have a solid thing overall. So, I don't have a lot of expectations. I think yours, the simplest one, the one that even if they have written exactly what they want to write for the next season, have plotted it all out, don't want to make any changes, fix the music, go insane on the music. Avatar's music it's written for you already. It's already fantastic. Change the mix and go big. I hope they get the budget for that.
Yeah. A lot of the same sentiments, and I really think the fact that I love the word remix that they used and they keep using, because there are so many ways they can shift and adapt this story to facilitate new and interesting forms of the original. Like, I always think about the fact that Toph isn't introduced until episode 6 of 20 in season 2. That's so late. She's already not in book 1.
I was gonna say she's definitely introduced in the first episode of season 2 for this.
Or like the fact that Zuko doesn't join them until episode 12 of book 3. I don't want that either. Maybe for book 3 when we get there, that can be something that happens sooner. We know what the end goal for a lot of this story is, and so I think there are ways in which they perhaps are falling a little bit too heavily on, well, you know how it's going to end. But that can also be a tool that you use for good, and a way in which you can create new ways to see this same story that will facilitate the same ending. It's why I love Sokka being an engineer, because he's not a warrior at all, but it's ways in which we can explore and expand his character and view things that will be useful to that end game in new ways. And so I think that is ultimately what I would love the most, is use the fact that you're remixing this to tell this story in a new and refreshing way. I also don't necessarily hope it's a lot. The same format for the next 2 books, so ultimately 24 episodes. That'd probably be good.
But if they go for 32 and they make the final arc its own 8-episode season, I'm going to chew through my own shoe.
Yeah, let's not belabor this either. Let's make something nice. Let's make something good.
Speaking of nice and good, hey, it's always so sweet when our coolest fans drop in, and I just want to say, hey, Cyborg, you're always awesome. So great to see you. And we are at the point of our episode where we're going to, just like an appearance from our awesome fans, do the thing that we're kind of known for doing on Saturdays, and that is play a little game. We're going to take a look at the animated versus live action characters and just sort of give a quick take on who we think might be our personal choice. This is certainly not to say that one is better than the other, just that for us, this is the more resonant iteration of the character. I think I was surprised when I looked at some of these. Number one, because it turns out I have no real concept of who they are in the animated show. I remember them, but do you matter? I mean, I know there's 6 winners right there. They're each one of his abdominals, and then the 2 major winners are his pecs. So I know that's 8 of my votes right there in this image. But some of these really did surprise me. I was really interested in what I thought about the animated characters versus what I thought about the animated show. And so I'm very excited to take a look at some of our favorite characters from the animated and live action Avatar: The Last Airbender, and play a little game with it. So you guys ready to have a good time?
Let me just get my screen all shirred.
It's a very Carly Rae Jepsen Owl City sort of situation. So we are
a good time. All right. I think I've got everything good to go.
all right.
Immediately animated.
Yeah, this is maybe the only one where I'm it's not that difficult, but it has nothing to do with this kid, and it has everything to do with I am kind of an Aang in real life. I'm kind of limitlessly, oh man, let's do stuff. Except when I'm kind of the whole world is ending and I need everyone to leave me alone because I just need to die. So I really relate to Aang. And as annoying as I find that, I just didn't relate to the live action character. So that's 2 for the animated.
I'm going to probably mostly. I'm going to err on the side of yes. I did like a more chilled Aang, but at the same time, yeah, it's a classic, and I feel like the performer probably could have given a little bit more emotion.
So animated Aang, Animated. Okay, this is a hot take. I am the world's least Katara fan. I don't hate her, but if you're asking me to give any character of the main four the lowest score, it's Katara. I mean, Toph is like my favorite character to watch. I am Aang. I would dominate an adult Sokka mercilessly. And Katara probably wouldn't like me and would chase me out of all of the cool gay club meetings because I say horrifying things like I want to dominate her straight brother without without a second thought. So me and Katara, not big friends. I thought this young actress did a really spectacular job. I loved the changes here. I'm going to go with live action Katara because I really felt connected to this iteration of a young woman in today.
I'm still about the animated Katara. I just felt that her as kind of a companion piece to Aang really shines a lot, and I really like her journey. I don't know quite where I am with other Katara yet, so we'll see.
This one's more of a toss-up for me because I'm pretty confident on my next choice, but Nico does make a lot of fine points about live-action Katara, and something that I really enjoyed about this actor's performance. Even though I said I felt like maybe there was a little bit less for the character in this, in many ways she did feel a little bit more evenly like a teenage girl to me in the live action. Whereas in the animated, I feel like she swings so wildly between like adult mother figure and yes, very childish, very selfish, makes incredibly foolish mistakes for the sake of plot convenience. So I think I might wild out and give it to live action Katara as well. I might regret that decision someday, but for now
That's
I'm
okay.
gonna go with yeah.
For
And
me,
by all
it's
means.
sorry. For me, it's live action Sokka. I really liked this kid. I thought he nailed the role. I don't love animated Sokka right until the very end when he is crying with Toph on the blimp because they're both going to die. That is the moment where I really love Sokka. But this kid was great all the way through. Also, he has the greatest and a very unique nose.
It's Ryan Reynolds' nose from Two Guys, a Girl, in a Pizza
Yes.
Place before he didn't have work done.
Yeah, so he's got my vote.
Same, actually. This kid, there's a lot of times where people are like, I'm going to play Holden Caulfield, and it's going to be the greatest performance of Holden Caulfield. No, you can't channel youthful indiscretion if you're trying to have youthful indiscretion. This kid played it like this could be his only chance to be a major star, and that made it feel like Sokka living like this is his only chance to be a warrior. This kid gave something so few actors can give. He gave an honest performance where he identified with the character, and I just really thought that was beautiful. It goes to the live action guy.
And same, we have seen so much of the evolution of the Xander character as a bunch of millennial queers who grew up on Buffy. And Sokka was definitely a Xander who was a little bit too close to how toxic Xander really was, especially at the very beginning of Buffy. And so, for as much as we all love and appreciate Sokka, and I really like his growth, I am mostly with TK, where he doesn't do it for me a lot of the time. It's the same thing as Katara, where I feel like some of the mistakes that he makes are a little bit too uneven and foolhardy compared to some of the more adult behavior that we have to see on him. And I think this iteration of Sokka was a lot more even, a lot softer, a lot softer on the surface in ways that we know Sokka has, but doesn't present as openly. So I really appreciated that for this version.
Well, down to the fact that they switched him to his club weapon from his ice axe, like, you know, that is such a violent image to have that one shot you were using earlier. Speaking of him being less of a warrior, I don't like animated Zuko. I don't. I loved this performer. I mean, the fact that outside of being Zuko, he's very handsome. Yeah, as Zuko, he's also pretty handsome.
Do you know his MCU connection, Nico?
No.
He is in Shang-Chi.
Oh, who is he in Shang-Chi?
Is he Shang-Chi?
He's Katie's stoner brother.
Oh, and I meant like a young Shang-Chi.
Yeah, that is amazing. No, Kevo had, I mean, I could tell that he was an adult. Kevo told me he's about 25.
22.
22? Okay. I thought he was 24 and he was 22 when he filmed it, because this was filmed 2 years from when it aired.
Yeah.
So everybody's 2 years off in their ages.
Yeah.
Already.
I did think that made this a little tough, because I could physically see where he's twice as old as Aang punching him. So that wasn't great. That was something that the animated kind of had over this, where everybody's animated, so everybody's skin is incredibly smooth except Iroh, who looks like the backside of a leather journal.
But it's funny because I do think the same thing about the animated show. Like, Zuko is just a lot older than Aang.
I always thought they were like 16 and 12 on the show, and here I'm like, that's a 20-year-old man punching a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Aang was very small.
It still doesn't. It still works for me insofar as, like, that's what happens when your dad abuses you into going and killing this one person, because that's the only way you're going to get his favor back. It doesn't matter that you're 20 and the kid is 10. Yeah. So I assume your vote is for live action.
Yeah, he gave an incredibly thoughtful performance. He really he gave a performance that I think should give this actor a lot of attention.
It's weird. I want to say animated because I love Dante Bosco
so much.
Just in every way. I mean, again, this is a very millennial thing, but Rufio changed all of our lives. None of us would be the boys that we are without Rufio. So that's, you know, I want to say Rufio or want to say Dante Bosco for that, but it's like a lot of it is even the animated Sokka animated Zuko, regardless of who's voicing him. Just like his animated presence doesn't work for me, you know, it's the exact opposite of Katara. I voted for the animated Katara because her presence on the show really works for me in a way that the live action one didn't so much. And in this case, my vote is also for live action Zuko. I just think so much about this actor's presence is really fantastic, and T put a ton of heart into it. Dante Bosco nailed how Zuko was cool, and once Zuko stops pursuing the Avatar, you know, his time running the tea shop, and then his time hanging out with May, and then once he joins the gang and he's just like mostly the cool older brother, Dante Bosco's voice is perfect for it. It's really not great when Zuko is pure angst.
So the emo years in the middle of being a young punk and a reformed cool older punk, it's those emo years in the middle Ohio really never was for lovers.
Exactly. And Dallas Liu, I think, nails this first season where Zuko is just genuinely unhappy. So, Kevo, any change to mix it up?
I mean, we're doing a brack, so I guess that means live action wins either way.
Yeah, but do you have a contest vote?
Do I have a contest vote? I think only insofar as everyone else's contest vote, because I think that this kid definitely gives a lot more of a young man vibe than Dante Bosco's voice was able to give. A lot of his yelling came across very grumpy and
grumpy.
Yeah, the way that he had to throw his voice like that definitely it made the character odd. Whereas this really comes across as an actual young man, and so I think that adds a lot to the character.
I also just want to say, really genuinely, there was nothing. I mean, I love all of my funny, slashy jokes about characters. There was nothing but kind, warm, fatherly love between these two characters, between Iroh and Zuko. Iroh is like my favorite character in the whole show. I don't know why you watch the show if you're not an Iroh fan. You'd be crazy to not be an Iroh fan. Live action Iroh managed to steal my heart. Didn't expect it. I turned to Kevo during the second episode, and I said, "Can you just remind me this thing about Iroh?" And Kevo was like, "No, that is not correct." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then it's a change they made for the show, and I was like, they even made my changes. So I am. It's live action Iroh for me, bro.
It's 100% animated Iroh for me. Animated Iroh is one of my favorite, if not my favorite characters. Mako, the original voice actor, incredible voice actor.
Mako is also one of my favorite characters.
Well, that's why he's Mako.
All the energy.
They named because they named him after this guy. Yeah. I get what you're saying. I hate it.
I'm gonna ride my fucking chocobo out of here. I swear to God, if those fucking horse chickens are not exactly what as a Final Fantasy fan, I was going to literally just be like, that's it. There is literally, I literally don't want a Final Fantasy adaptation. If this isn't what chocobos look like, I would literally rather never see my favorite video game adapted in any regard if chocobos can't look this fucking good. There's just literally, I give up on video games instead.
Yep, it really was the first thing I thought. I think it's the first thing all of us thought. And
you kept saying,
give me hope for a really good Final Fantasy adaptation.
You kept saying chocobo. I was like, yes, I understand that. It's what it's been based on since 19 years ago. We established this together in 2008. I know.
It's so good. It is so good. It makes other things bad. It is wrong how good it is. All right, so I think Kevo, where are you putting Iroh? Are you going animated?
Not only am I going animated,
yes.
I've got to be honest. This is not even my favorite live action take on Iroh, nor specifically is it my favorite performance by Paul Sun-Hyung Lee of the last few years. I think his role in the Star Wars universe
my God!
Yes, as
are you
Captain
just getting that
Tiva. What?
That's the guy that's the flying guy.
Yes.
Carson Tiva, yes. He's much I like him a lot more in the Star Wars universe.
Agreed.
I like him in this. And I got choked up when he and Aang already get to have their little conversations this early in book one. It's super cute. But I feel like I could have even gotten a better performance from him as Iroh. I'm sad. I don't want to be disappointed. Book two has a lot more for Iroh, so hopefully if we get to see Iroh in a better element, that'll be better for him. Book one was never great for Iroh anyway, so that's not his fault. So either way, you got to give it to the original. Got to give it to Mako.
I really love Mako, and I love Greg Baldwin, who inherited the role from Mako, who trained him as a voice actor. And I always like to just note and remind people that it was Mako who sang Leaves from the Vine and who died just before that episode aired. So it's just kind of a beautiful Avatar moment. But
I lost my shit to Little Soldier Boy, the interpolation of the song about Iroh's son. Was the score point that made me literally cry on the bed. That was just speaking of Iroh getting all the best score.
I'm giving this one to Animated Azula. I think if we play this game again at the end of next season, I might be voting for live action Azula. But for now, it is 100% to animated.
Same vote. I don't even have a change. There's some stuff in the finale for those of you who just aren't caught up. We have avoided extreme discussion of the finale outside of discussing one of the greatest actresses of our lifetime. Ms. Midthunder's appearance as Yue. She has a really phenomenal moment in the finale, and it's just not enough.
Also, Yagoda, who is a character from the animated, the woman who's the leader of the healers in the Northern Water Tribe, is played by Irene Bedard, who our generation best knows as the speaking voice of Pocahontas.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, and she would know all about trying to keep nature in balance, wouldn't she? Turns out she doesn't paint with the colors of the wind, she paints with the colors of snow. So, yeah, it's got to be animated for me.
It really is. This is another one where, again, this isn't even the best live action performance, and we only got to see Summer Bishop for 2 seconds, but I get to dream of what would have happened if Margot from The Magicians had played Azula. You introduced Azula and her friends this early, and you kind of didn't do much with them. So that was disappointing.
All right, let's take a look at a no-brainer. I'm gonna go with for sure. This is animated. I don't even like the animated character, but I definitely felt not great about this performance.
I agree. I think what it is for me is the consistency of the animated. As I was talking about, this is a character that, while there is a ton of silliness in Avatar: The Last Airbender, this character is not really silly and is very driven all the way through. And I think the live action version plays closer to silly but never gets there, so it never quite feels right. And again, Ken Jeong just would have been a great option to make him a kind of funnier villain, which again I think the show could have used. So ultimately, while I think they are both very good performances and both good interpretations of the character, one benefits from an internal consistency with its show and a sort of adding to a balance.
Totally.
Wow, this one's a huge protest vote for me then, because I don't love Lucius Malfoy, Captain Lorca, Captain Zhao.
Shut the fuck up, that's Lorca?
Yeah.
That's Jason Isaacs, yes.
I can only see him with scary, wispy blondie hair.
Or my eyes are sensitive to light,
Or I just killed Britt Marling a bunch of times, and then she went to the other world, and I gotta know what it's like over there. That's the OA.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And he's done other things that I'm sure we could continue.
No, he hasn't. That's it. He has done no other things.
It's these four. That's it. Well, then all the more I'm going to give it to Ken Long.
All right, well, you lost.
I lose.
Ken lost.
Ken
and
lost.
You could have Ken Zhuang.
I mean, come on. We know what's happening here.
Daniel Day Kim.
Of course.
I mean, I feel bad. This is not even my top 5 animated performances from Mark Hamill.
No.
I genuinely don't feel a connection to Ozai, and used to say to Kevo that it is literally just a 50-year-old man punching a child in the head. It is not even compelling in the animated for me in any way. This goes 1,000% to Daniel Day Kim.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. I mean, what's there to even say? I'm still a little bit nervous, but intrigued to see where they're going to go with this character in ongoing books. But we'll see.
Animated Aang.
Animated Aang. I don't even care the prompt, unless the prompt is who do you dislike more. No, then I might even dislike Aang more. Nothing Katara compared to Aang.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you already won.
Zuko. Zuko.
Not even huge protest.
Not even
mad.
Close. Zuko.
Big time Zuko.
Big time.
Mad. Mad! Ending the broadcast
And,
on
like,
your asses.
but, like,
removing you
mad,
from the
stay
studio.
in the top 3,
Yeah.
2 of the top
I
3
am
performances. But
Yeah.
I am as mad as TK was about Laurie Metcalf in the
Okay.
villains bracket.
That's acceptable. I know that level of anger, so I sympathize.
I
It'll
always
come for
win,
Nico
so I know.
someday. No, it'll come for
I
you
noticed how
someday.
Kevo knew that my joke was going to be, I've never been that mad in my life.
It'll
And
come
no
for
one would
you.
ever upset me that much because
All
So,
right, who's this?
Iro.
Iro.
Okay.
Iro to an eye roll is what it is.
I really do love Azula. This is actually pretty close for me, but just I gotta go wholesome.
Oh yeah, and just a universal character. Seeing him in Korra was so great.
It's dragon versus dragon, and it's got to go to the dragon that eventually saw the error of destroying everything.
Oh my god, I do love that battle idea, though. I love that they came up as this pair.
Truly.
Ooh.
Daniel Day Kim.
Daniel Day Kim. Oh,
course.
yeah.
The day.
The doy. And I
Is this
Cyborg,
gonna
you
be
know
father
what?
and son?
Cyborg, I would do I see Cyborg has said something about, content you should do. We can do something about the movie. I would do something about the movie. I really would. I don't think the movie is the worst thing that's ever happened. I think that it is a bad iteration of something. But I think M. Night Shyamalan has had good intent from day one. So I'd be happy to talk about it as an auteur theory piece.
Yeah.
This is Aang.
Oh,
I don't get the final word on that. You should weigh in if you have an opinion, as you are the actual filmmaker.
Oh no, I mean, I don't want to spend more time on it. If we decide we'll actually do something about it, then I'll talk about it. This is close for me. I actually might even pick Zuko. I do love Aang a lot, but up to a point.
Okay. I
I
see why we live in different states now. Okay.
Kevo, what do you got?
This is kind of us. This is Kevo. Pick me or TK. You know who you sleep next to.
I didn't say I picked Zuko yet.
Well, and here's the thing. I agree with you. I love Aang to a point, but I also love Zuko to a point.
Sure.
And what kind of brat would I rather have to deal with? An angry one or a happy one?
Yeah, fair.
So who you voting? Zuko or Aang?
Are you asking me or him? Because I'm pretty sure I made mine clear.
I wasn't sure. So who are you? You're saying Aang?
No, Aang. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, then it's Aang, no matter who he votes.
I want to know. You guys always make me answer.
I'll say Aang just to.
And from Aang to Iroh, there is no question for me. Iroh is the superior character between these two.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
While Daniel Day Kim gives an unforgettable, life-changing performance for a villain who is in many ways, for me, two-dimensional, it's not enough to overtake the levels of feeling like there was a dad out there in this universe full of no dads that Iroh provided to an entire generation who were paternally challenged.
Yep. Same for me. Same vote.
Yeah.
Iroh.
Yeah. Very much.
I started this with my favorite.
Yeah, and same argument, really. It's just, even though it's good versus good, it's still the same answer.
100% animated Monkeyatsu.
I don't think I care.
Okay, well, you still have to pick.
I just never cared. I thought so many of the airbenders just sort of read like tragedy victims. They were created just to make you sad. And if they had been created to be parts of the universe, they would have had personality traits that weren't just sad when they're dead. But because all of these characters were created explicitly to die, they were never given the absolute volume of being a real person. They were created to make you sad. So I've never really connected with a lot of the airbenders because they don't have whole personalities. Monkeyatsu as a character that's designed to facilitate Aang's story is fine. I'm going to give it to the live action just because I think he had to find this character in what I couldn't. But I'm going to give it to the live action just because, I don't love tragedy porn, but he made me like the character.
I really get that. The animated Gyatso really evokes for me what I think Book Dumbledore was supposed to be like, that neither live action adaptation
Gay.
really in any way caught, where I feel like the book one is a lot more this Tim Gunn whispery erudite figure at times, where he does silly things like we see Gyatso do silly things with Aang, but they are usually in his own weird quirky way and are a surprise, whereas I think this Gyatso is one of the many things that fell victim of the mono voce of this adaptation, where he was just kind of the same funny, silly, sarcastic person as everyone else. And I think he lost a lot of his individuality in that regard. So I think animated Gyatso is a lot more singular and unique among the other characters than live action was. I appreciated seeing more like screen time right up front, but still.
So your vote's
Animated
animated?
it is.
Yeah.
All right, let's click that animation.
For Suki, it's definitely live action for me. So
Same.
far, again, this is another one where I think by the time she's swinging through on the Zeppelin, saving everybody's life, it's not even going to be then. It's going to be during the prison break. I will say, I'll go back to animated Suki, but I like live action right now.
Live action Suki blew my mind. I thought that she managed to capture. I thought that animated Suki was always a little too Lorelai Gilmore, and that's something like it's something that a couple of my friends used to joke about me, that like if you always have a comeback for everything, you're not actually that funny, because then it's just not that interesting. I just constantly hear you making jokes. Animated Suki is just so on and so ready and so good, and like it becomes where she's not a whole character. She's a foil to the fallibility that Sokka experiences. So she's made perfect she's elevated to explore Sokka's humanity. This live action Suki was just spectacular. I thought she really took a bite out of every scene they gave her. And that is hard to do when you are being told you are a faceless warrior that looks like so many others in the scene. It was really spectacular. I have to give it to live action.
I didn't feel that as much. I really felt like the performance was a little flat. I feel like that is one of the ways in which removing some of Sokka's exacerbated misogyny kind of removed some stuff for Suki to be able to do and react to in the story, perhaps. I'm not sure if that's it. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I didn't really feel very strongly about her performance in this, but I am definitely excited and curious to see where it can go from here. So I'm not sad to lose the vote, that's for sure.
Live action.
This one we discussed ad infinitum. So yeah, it's definitely live action for me too, and I made my reasons clear.
Same.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep the picture up for an extra second because he does look great. And they did a great job of adapting it. Like, even the pits, it's a little silly, but it's not too much.
I will say the makeup, I would have maybe figured something else out. This is
middle ground, maybe.
Yeah, it's just
it borders on grotesque.
Yeah, and it's also this is another one of those things where I'm just like, sometimes the kids would say a line and I'd be like, why did you not make them run it one more time? I know there was another take in there. This is another thing where like they screen tested this makeup. Why did they not say this isn't working? I maybe even would have gone with let's not make him look this old.
He's got to be 100. Like,
he's already impossibly old anyway. He's older than that.
Exactly.
They're 12 when Aang freezes for 100 years. So he's 112 years old.
Exactly.
He eats a rock thing and it keeps him relatively young. Whatever you want to do. But maybe something so that we didn't have to use this makeup. But anyway, I don't care. The performance was so good. I loved this actor. I loved the choice that the writing team made for Boomy as a character. And I'm excited to see him back. This is when we eventually do get the White Lotus scene. This is going to be a really exciting one.
It's going to be like the Illuminati at Marvel. Kevo, what you got?
Kevo said live action.
Yeah.
I don't fucking care. What if you
Yeah.
guys have a majority? I'll just go with whatever. This is my least favorite character in all of Avatar.
I also don't care. I would probably go with animated Jet, but I know he's
Sure.
also not making it past the next round, so I truly don't care either.
Sure.
I'm gonna go with live action.
Haha,
though.
now you actually have to make a choice, Nico.
You know what? Live action, because it was briefer.
Okay.
And
Beautiful
I feel like
man.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was ultimately, in some ways, weirdly less obnoxious because we didn't get too many speeches from him about how justified he is and all the crap he's doing. And I like that.
I also
Respect.
like that he does kind of have that Rufio vibe. The original and the animation does. This actor captures that very high-spirited, wild hair kind of strong 16 young boy energy. I mean, obviously he's an adult man, but like, he's got that wild boy energy. Live action it is. This is tough because it's so stupid. Please, please, please. I am so sorry. No one pick on me. I have no real use for Ty Lee. I think she's lovely and I think she's likable. And as a fan of Final Fantasy, I think I just shit on like every selfie and every Yuffie that has ever existed. But it might be like the best character in the universe. And I just want her to yell at me till I feel bad about myself. I would split this actually. Because I thought the live action Ty Lee gave me something I had never gotten from her, which was a sense of humanity.
Yeah.
But what these two young women represent in the animation is something so unlike what most TV shows are willing to ever do in their entire time. It has nothing to do with the incredible quality that these two live action women gave, but the representation that these two animated characters provided for young women who had always felt like there was no room for Sailor Scouts that weren't Sailor Moon after Sailor Moon was really lovely. They have their own personalities, their own fighting styles, and their own identities. The animated characters have to win here for me. They were a strike for women everywhere.
For me, it's also the animated characters. May as the like original, feudal times goth mommy.
Aubrey Plaza. She is animated Aubrey Plaza. It's amazing.
She's just so good, and
Amazing.
that you discover that that's kind of Zuko's perfect match. It's not like some hot babe who's bad. It's not June. It's not a teenage June, which is what I think you expect. You find out that it's this really dour, dark, but like somehow you can tell incredibly loving. She reads whatever that world Sylvia Plath is.
It's Fiona Apple.
She's very Fiona Apple. Ty Lee, I really I mean, you nailed it, Yuffie. Like there are so many characters from the Final Fantasy franchise that are so Ty Lee. The fact that she's a circus performer, that she is the original chi blocker. It's actually one of the things that drives me insane.
Oh my God, yeah.
Insane about Korra is that the chi blocking is not handed down somehow from Ty Lee.
Wow, great catch. Great.
With all the ways in which Toph is related to metal bending, yes, it is kind of a disservice that there is no mention of her.
Exactly.
I really strongly agree.
That even like that somehow the Amon and his brother would have been like Ty Lee's children that she abandoned because she's supposed to be a Kyoshi warrior and not have kids or something, but they did learn chi blocking. I don't know, but she is the first chi blocker, and that is
you just say her name. Yeah.
So anyway, but I love the animated ones. This is another one.
It Tai Chi.
Yeah. This is another one where I'm hoping by the next time we play this, I'm voting for the live action ones.
Same.
But for now, animated.
And I agree, and because it's the same thing that I said with Azula, except much stronger, where I feel like you added these characters early, and by doing that, you gave us absolutely nothing. You just acknowledged that they always existed in this world, and because this isn't the original animated series, where they weren't invented or able to be introduced earlier, you were able to have them be seen earlier, and they kind of just stood around,
Yeah, 100%.
you could have done something with them, and so that was a frustration.
Excuse me. I only wish that at any given time when somebody says to me, "Do you want to go somewhere?" I could just hit play on my invisible tape recorder and say, "Larry, I'm on DuckTales." I will never vote against Danny Pudi. He could be running Republican for president, and I don't think I would be able to vote against him. He has better sense than that. But Danny Pudi, you get my vote no matter what. You are one of the most talented actors of your generation, and motherfucker, you're on DuckTales. So
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't respond to these two characters in the animated series.
Same.
Even though I really like the concept, and you know
Same.
that Aang, actually one of the moments where I was like, this is closest to joy. Again, another writer take a pass at this, and while filming it, somebody make it happier. When Aang sees the glider, for some reason that actually felt bigger to me in the live action, even though I knew the moment, even though I knew it wasn't an airbender, even though I knew everything that was going to happen, something about it landed. And then Danny Pudi Sai, you know, he's actually, it's not even like that amazing a performance. Again, don't just blame Danny. I do blame the writing, and I do blame the direction. I wish somebody had told him, like, make it crazier, because it's Danny Pudi. He'll do it. But somehow, despite all of those critiques, they moved me more. The visuals moved me more. Yeah, so they get my vote.
I also love seeing Danny Pudi as a dad. We loved seeing him as a brother, and as men who have chosen not to have sons. Seeing a man that we identified as one of our own in this new role, I think kind of makes us see ourselves in new ways, in part. And so it's just really lovely to see. And so live action Danny Pudi all the way.
This is another one where, much like you were talking about, where you wished Ty Lee had been paid her dues. You'd been talking about while we watched this. There isn't really a lot of due paid to the Mechanist for the role that he had in advancing this universe's technological whatnot,
resources and abilities and standards.
Yeah, thank you. And so seeing this character introduced here in this much bigger way, it feels in some ways, perhaps leading to, and with such an amazing actor that we are going to want to see again, perhaps leading into a bigger role for the character in this remixed version. Something like that would be really cool. So
I think this is a result of Asami's father being somebody we wanted to believe in and couldn't.
Yeah.
And getting a better version of the Mechanist here is lovely.
Is Sulu Asami's father?
Is
it George Takei? It's somebody like that. And George Takei also has a role in the show.
Well, it actually might be Daniel Day Kim. Hold on, I'm checking. I am actually now
I think
almost
you're right
positive
about that. And then Sulu is somebody else.
Sulu is Ko.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's Ko, the face stealer.
So then, yeah, Daniel Day Kim is Hiroshi Sato, I think.
Hiroshi Sato, thank you.
Yeah, and Sai here was Rene Auberjonois.
Yeah.
Oh, just the finest actor of his generation. No big deal.
I wasn't sure if you were going to vote just based on that, but it's too late. You already voted. We're picking Danny.
No, because his best animated performance is from Archer, and I will never back down.
No, right. You said it's not Le Poisson.
I will never, ever come from his Mid Thunder live action. Get the fuck out of my way. She could literally read me the ingredients on a bottle of water, and I would give it an Oscar. Live action, I don't even have realistic blinders for this.
I love her very much. If this had to do with Prey, she would get my vote. I am
for me, it's Roswell.
I'm sticking animated with this one and letting Kevo break the tie.
And it's funny because the two pictures that I chose to represent the general concept of the Water Tribe are actually the performances that I thought, despite loving Amber, were the weakest. I was ultimately kind of disappointed by her UA, not as disappointed as I was by the actress who would go on to play the amazing role of Asami on Korra. Her live action UA was
not
embarrassing.
Yeah.
mostly because of the script, but it was really that horrible. This and the Grand, these really disappointed me hugely. But the overall portrayal of the Water Tribe, it really did endear me in the live action one. Like I said, I really loved Irene Bedard as Yagoda. Maybe I should have put her picture in there to represent, and I would have been swayed more easily. But yeah, I might ultimately go with you guys on the animated versions of the Water Tribe, because what?
Not you guys, just him. I went with Amber Midthunder.
Oh, shoot! I was the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I told you that.
I'm
It's
hungry.
Okay. Go animated because
All right.
I'm not voting Grand. I'm only voting Amber Midthunder because I think she could literally tear the side off of a school bus with her teeth if she wanted to sink that hard into a role. So
the flip side of it is, and this is not her fault, guys. This was one of the worst decisions made in the entire show. Choosing to have Gran give the intro to the original series as a monologue.
Oh, so bad. I was so embarrassed.
It was so bad. Anyway, this is a punishment vote. So, Kevo, you said animated, and we're sticking with that so we can...
Yeah, I think there's ultimately maybe no live action saving the dramatic and maudlin and soap operatic character that is Yue and her stupid destiny. If Amber Midthunder couldn't save it for me, then no one can.
No one can. I'm giving this one to live action.
Live action so hard.
And
really?
I would have done it just for the incarnation of Kyoshi.
Without even that was the moment where I was like, I can get through the whole show.
Yeah, that 100% same.
Yes.
I like this Roku too. I think we've got something here. This is another one where if you were asking me to pick individually, I would be picking animated Roku, but I see so much promise for this Roku by the end of the show. And
especially
Roku,
if they update the OS.
I am going to burn your house to the ground. I'm going to make sure everybody else is
no,
out of
that's
it.
my house.
I know. I'm
Oh,
going to make sure you're out.
Here.
Also, if we can all just agree that Wolf Daddy is one of the hottest.
Yeah,
things.
Kuruk is beautiful.
And that's something too. I didn't love and was thrown by the things that they did with Kuruk. And then I did further reading and came to understand that a lot of the things that they introduce into Avatar: The Last Airbender, the show for Kuruk, are things that are from the creators, that are from the spin-off material, that are from the comics, that are introduced as further development as Kuruk's backstory. And I don't love them, but knowing that it is part of the lore and the universe, because there are things that they do in here where you're like, that's not quite the truth, Ellen. That's not quite what Avatar State is. That's not quite how spirits work. That's not quite where this person goes, and there's a reason for that. But, introducing these elements and spinning them in fun ways, that was really interesting. And so, yeah, getting to see more of these. I don't really feel like the spirit versions of the avatars had much personality unto themselves in the animated. They were all very ethereal. They were all very wisdomous. Even Kyoshi didn't really go hard on that. Fuck them, kill everyone until the very, very end of book 3. So seeing it here so early, really seeing her personality come through strong. Yeah, it's really interesting, and I would love to see more of that.
So I think the live action guys kind of got the vote here, and let's burn through our right side for me. This one, absolutely. This is pretty easy for me. I think Suki really represents the best of live action Avatar, and Gyatso is not the best of animated Avatar.
Agreed. This goes to Suki for me too.
Sure, I'm down.
Boomy.
Oh, Boomy. We don't even like Jet.
No matter what version even is the thing. It could have been either version, either combination. No.
Mm-mm. Oh God! Wow, it's or love that.
May and Ty Lee.
May and Ty Lee, yeah.
I mean, it would be a protest vote, so I'm going to say protest vote, but it's not too protesty.
May and Ty Lee in the morning.
Avatars.
Live action avatars for this guy.
Yes, fully live action avatars versus Water Trap. Definitely live action avatars. Live Suki versus live Boomy.
Live Boomy for me, because the episode was more engaging because of Boomy than the episode was engaging because of Suki.
Okay.
I'm still voting Suki on this one, but I'm happy to see Boomy win. And I agree with what you said. I just really like this actor who played Suki.
Yeah. I hope we see more of Suki in book 2. And that way that they're remixing stuff, maybe she can be elevated a little bit more.
Yeah. Roy.
Live action avatars.
Live action avatars. That was one of the coolest scenes in the whole show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love to see more stuff in book 2. We already knew these, so they were familiar faces, but they elevated Kuruk. Maybe we can see more from other avatars. Yang Chen.
Yeah. I would love to get some sort of light preview of Korra. The avatars for me, no offense, Boomy, but the potentiality of showing avatars really outweighs Boomy's contribution throughout book 2.
I gotta agree.
Which is going to lead to an interesting final, I believe.
Yeah.
Really? Well, shit. Iroh to me is a more realized character than any of the avatars smooshed together by virtue of what we've seen in the show. Now, certainly, side comic canon makes it a lot more complicated, but for me, it's Iroh. You know, the dragon sure is a great bonus track, so I'm going to give it to Iroh.
I think my vote is for Iroh too. It's very close. The avatars really did make this world immersive. And they did add that final dimension that locked me in. As Nico said, once Kyoshi incarnated and took out the Fire Nation on Kyoshi Island, I really thought, like, okay, we're cooking with something now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my pick.
Well, then I'm going to give a fairly strong protest vote in that case, since I can anyway, of the live action avatars, because I love Iroh, I really do. But especially since losing the original voice actor waxes a lot of this nostalgia off of that character, because that character is so finite. Whereas, like I said, I'm really interested in the potential of future books and seeing other avatars adapted to live action and getting to see them develop more. I think that'd be really interesting. So no offense to Iroh, but I still think they're pretty cool.
I'm so surprised that Iroh won our Who is the Best character in all of Avatar The Last Airbender, live action or animated. Of
right?
course. So exciting to see that outcome. And, you know, it was so exciting to get to watch this, having something new. We have felt a little bit like our show was suffering for new material to talk about. Not that the stuff we talk about isn't A+, not that every episode we do isn't our favorite, but we don't always get something that connects to our fandom like the way this does. And so it was really great to see this kick off a new season of things like the return of Discovery and so much more. I had a great time talking about what it means to be an airbender for me and exist in this world, and what it means to be a fan of this series. All said and done, I'm really happy Iroh won. I'm really happy for the show. I'd probably give the show a B-, maybe a C+, but it has more to do with production values than it does with any changes. And I root for every member of this cast. Any final or parting thoughts from you guys as we wrap this guy up?
No, you know, I think my grade is somewhere probably in the B- range. This is one of those ones where, you know, I give a grade that is a little bit higher, but I also tell the thing like you should be capable of an A. So the B- should be a little discouraging for you because I know you can do better. And I know this could have been One Piece level right out the gate. And it's okay that it wasn't. It's still really good, and there's still a lot to look forward to, and a lot that was done right, and a lot that made me happy, and a lot that I enjoy. I just, execs are ruining everything. Money is ruining everything. Creativity is being stifled by...
Money's ruining everything. Just give us yours. You don't need it. It's ruining you. We will take it off your hands.
If you would just give it to us, then we could just be creative and we wouldn't have to worry about money. So, but yeah, I mean, I could just see being so in love with this in season 3 when we get to those final seasons, or when we get to those final moments. And I'm really hoping that's what happens. I really, really am.
Keva, how you feeling about a show you brought to my life, 15 years ago?
Yeah. And ultimately, yeah, same. I have high hopes, like we said. Listen to feedback. You don't have to listen to all of it, but you really do need to listen to some of it, because we're not infallible as artists, and you're making art for economic consumption, so you need to listen to the people that are consuming it. I don't want this drawn out the way so many shows do end up being drawn out. A finite 24 episodes to tell books 2 and 3 at the same length that this was told is really all we need. You can make it a little bit longer for book 3 the way people love doing it. 10 maybe.
That's it.
Let's not go too crazy. This is fun. This is exciting. Some of it's good. Some of it's weird. That's even why I included this moment on the cover specifically. This one weirded me out. What is this? Why are there beams of light coming out of Kiyoshi's statue? Weird stuff. Wild, kooky, fun, interesting. I'm with you on mostly a C+. The highest it goes is probably somewhere around a B+, but it doesn't go anywhere lower than a D for me. So we'll see. We'll see if it even gets picked up. And if it is picked up, you know that we will be reporting it. So tune in. We have plenty more to say about plenty of things just like this.
Well, and while you're tuning in, if you guys would just do us our super cool favor, like, comment, subscribe. Subscribe is a really hard word to say. Like, comment, subscribe. And we would love to keep hearing from you guys. Know what you guys like. Know what you guys would love to see us talk about. We love making this show for you guys 3 times a week. We talk comics Wednesdays. We talk TV Sundays and special events Saturdays. And it's a big thing for us. Tomorrow we're going to be back talking all sorts of Traders. One of my favorite episodes of Traders of all time. Drag Race UK versus the world. Some big news on that front. Some talk about a merger for some apps that we all use. Let's take a look at that as well. And until then, we got 3 other things we want to do. That's sign off, say goodbye, and give you guys a couple of messages. So Kevo, where can everybody find you online to kick this whole thing off?
You can find me over on the socials at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY. Why did I click on with Jonah? We love him. That's
love him.
We love you, little Muppet. You'll be here tomorrow,
Jonah.
I think.
Love that Mupp.
Love Jonah. That was a little sneak preview for you guys. But until then, Teak, where can the folks don't find you?
You can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, where can they find you?
You guys can find me appreciating amazing contributors like Tasty Cake and Cyborg hanging out in our amazing comment section. We had some awesome conversation earlier. Oh, hi, Mark. You guys can find me all over the interwebs at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION, including on YouTube, SoundCloud, and more. As for the 3 of us, you can check us out tomorrow night at 6 p.m. here on YouTube. And until then, we got 3 things we need you guys to do. Super important. Number 1, you got to stay safe. It's a scary world out there, so don't get too scared. Number 2, we need you guys to be brave. I know it's a scary world, but the better you are, the better the world will be. And don't forget to evolve daily, because as great as you are today, tomorrow you're going to be even better. And we can't wait to see it and be there with you. So tune in, like, subscribe, and we'll see you.